Motion capture, motion tracking, or mocap are terms used to describe the process of recording movement and translating that movement onto a digital model. In filmmaking, it refers to recording actions of humans and using that information to animate digital character models in 2D or 3D computer animation. When it includes face and finger or captures subtle expressions, it is often referred to as performance capture. In motion capture sessions, movements of one or more actors are sampled many times per second, although with most techniques, motion capture records only the movements of the actor, not his or her visual performance. The idea of copying human motion for animated characters is, of course, not new. To get convincing motion for the human characters in Snow White, Disney Studios traced animation over film footage of live actors playing out the scenes. This method, called rotoscoping, has been successfully used for human characters ever since. In the late 1970s, when it began to be feasible to animate characters by computer, animators adapted traditional techniques, included rotoscoping. 1980 through 1983, the Simon Fraser University started using ganometers, and around this time, biomechanics labs were beginning to use computers to analyze human motion. Techniques and devices used in these studios began to make their way into the computer graphics community. In the early 1980s, Tom Calvert, a professor of kinesiology and computer science at Simon Fraser University, attached potentometers to a body and used the output to drive computer-animated figures for choreographic studies and clinical assessment of movement abnormalities. Moving on from that point, in 1988, Pacific Data Images created what is now called the Waldo C graphic. As early as 1985, Jim Henson Productions had been trying to create computer graphics versions of their characters. They met with limited success, mainly due to the limited capabilities of the technology at that time. However, finally in 1988, with the availability of the Silicon Graphics 4D series workstation and with the expertise of Pacific Data Images, they found a viable solution. By hooking a custom 8 degree of freedom input device, a kind of mechanical arm with upper and lower jaw attachments, through the standard CGI digital box, they were able to control the position and mouth movements of a low-resolution character in real time. Thus was Waldo C graphic born. Waldo's strength as a computer-generated puppet was that he could be controlled in real time in concert with real puppets. The computer image was mixed with the video feed of the camera focused on the real puppets so that everyone could perform together. Afterwards, in post-production, PDI re-rendered Waldo in full resolution, adding a few dynamic elements on top of the performed motion to provide a higher resolution image of Waldo and make him seem more flush with the actual characters he was working with. Now, since this point, movies have come a huge way in utilizing motion caption animation for films, and movies use motion captures for CG effects, in some cases replacing traditional cell animation and for completely computer-generated creatures such as Gollum from The Lord of the Rings, the Mummy, King Kong, Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, and the Na'vi from the film Avatar. Motion capture has begun to be used extensively to produce films which attempt to simulate or approximate the look of live-action cinema. With nearly photorealistic digital character models, the Polar Express used motion capture to allow Tom Hanks to perform as several distinct characters, in which he also provided the voices. Now, most traditional motion capture hardware vendors provide for some type of low-resolution facial capture, utilizing anywhere from 32 to 300 markers, with either an active or passive marker system. All of these solutions are limited by the time it takes to apply the markers, calibrate the positions, and process the data. Ultimately, the technology also limits the resolution and raw output quality levels. High-fidelity facial motion capture, also known as performance capture, is the next generation of fidelity and is utilized to record the more complex movements in a human face in order to capture higher degrees of emotion. Facial capture is currently arranging itself in several distinct camps, including traditional motion capture data, blend-shaped based solutions, capturing the actual topology of an actor's face, and proprietary systems. Now, optical systems, which is the main type of data used to process motion capture animation in films today, captures image sensors to triangulate the 3D position of a subject between one or more cameras calibrated to provide overlapping projections. Data acquisition is traditionally implemented using special markers attached to an actor. However, more recent systems are able to generate accurate data by tracking surface features identified dynamically for each particular subject. Tracking a large number of performers or expanding the capture area is accomplished by the addition of more cameras. These systems produce data with 3 degrees of freedom for each marker, and rotational information must be inferred from the relative orientation of 3 or more markers. For instance, shoulder, elbow, and wrist markers providing the angle of the elbow alone. Newer hybrid systems are combining inertial sensors with optical sensors to reduce occlusion, increase the number of users, and improve the ability to track without having to manually clean up the data. As you can see, motion capture is a highly advanced technological system. For this reason, I'd like to show you a few clips from 2 movies that I really like and use motion capture really nicely. The first being Lord of the Rings. This shows Andy Serkis performing as the creepy character Gollum. The second clip is a behind-the-scenes look into how the Planet of the Apes was made, which is a huge jump in technological advances in motion capture alone. So take a look, it's really interesting.
This is the kind of the motion capture phase of the Gollum journey. And what I'm doing now is actually getting a chance to do the performance proper, because on set it was really, kind of a case of getting the choreography right and the positioning and, presenting the other actors with stuff to play off. But now this is where I get to really physicalise Gollum, using the Gollum puppet by means of using the sensors on here, going through it into the computer. I mean, this is cutting edge stuff here. This technology is just being evolved all the time. As I move the puppet, I can see him moving in real time inside the goggles.
Let's try to restart.
All the lights are the cameras, yeah, and they all pick up on the reference on the dots. So to link this up to the Gollum puppet, I have to start from this kind of similar starting position each time we go for a take. Gollum's got to be real, as any other character in the films, be integrated into the scenes as much. It's just this is a rather protracted way of doing it.
Oh, sorry, let me put Sam in.
It would have been impossible for us to make this movie a few years ago.
Learning what they learned on King Kong to Avatar, what it brought their technology to another level for this movie to make our apes look real.
This is the first live-action film that has its main character as a thoughtful, feeling, self-aware animal. This is the ape's story.
Andy Serkis is unlike any other actor. He can inhabit characters that don't speak and emote in ways that you don't really see often in movies.
The basic usage of performance capture is to see it on the screen. You will see the apes, but they're apes which are infused with the heart and soul of an actor's performance.
If you can be blinded by the technology, you can find yourself weighed down by it. And I think Andy brings a spirit and an understanding and a simplicity. He's able to push the technology to one side and think about it in terms of just a real live-action performance.
This film is not possible without the work of Andy Serkis.
You have to trust me. I'm gonna get you out of here.
Everybody's seen chimpanzees, everybody's seen orangutans. We know how they're supposed to look. So I think the bar in terms of needing to make photorealistic characters is really high.
So we had to go to the best people in the business to do visual effects in this movie. Weta had the experience from Kong, Avatar, and Lord of the Rings. One of the improvements in motion capture since Avatar really have to do with detail and the type of imagery that they're getting out of the cameras. Gives us more facial information. And that subtlety is what's going to make the apes work, which is going to be very different. You don't get a chance to look in apes' eyes like you will see in this movie.
I think those are two really great examples of motion capture animation and how they've been implemented into films, starting with Lord of the Rings and then with Planet of the Apes. While motion capture seems like this great phenomenon, some people don't actually seem to agree. Now recently, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences laid a 4-year-old controversy to rest when they announced that the motion capture films are no longer considered eligible for the Best Animated Feature Film category. Motion capture does have its critics, with many skeptical of a technological process which captures an actor's physical performance digitally and then turns it over to technicians who heighten and embellish that performance, as well as fine-tuning the performer's physical appearance. However, many digital artists will call this an art form. I thought this was pretty interesting because it never occurred to me that people would feel the actors didn't perhaps work hard enough, or maybe achieve the end result as they should have with normal acting without motion capture laid on top. Some also might think that it's a little bit akin to maybe photoshopping off someone's love handles. I, on the other hand, like many others, think that motion capture is just a great way to put real human physicality into the virtual world. I polled actually 25 people about this. 90% of them said that the films don't lose authenticity when using motion capture, and that they think they should place at large-scale award shows. So I think there you have it. This is a look into the intricate technology that is motion capture. When it started, a glimpse into how it's been made and some controversies surrounding it. Overall, I think motion capture is a fascinating art, and I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about it. So thank you so much for watching my presentation, and I hope you enjoy motion capture just as much as I do.